Hello, everybody. Welcome back to That's Three Ref podcast. That's Three Ref, a wrestling podcast. Um, we are talking Royal Rumble 1994. And this is the one where everyone's favorite phenom or biker or cult leader, whoever he is to you, the Undertaker, only goes to heaven. So pretty exciting news for him. And then we're going to be starting the card with Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow, of course. And then we're going to kick it over to the tag titles with the Hart Brothers versus the Quebeckers. Then we're going to see who is fighting for the IC title. Spoiler alert, it is Razor Ramon versus IRS, Bray Wyatt's dad, so rest in peace. Then we're going to check out the casket match between Undertaker and Yokozuna. And then we're going to end with the Royalist of Rumbles. So pretty exciting news all around. I'm, of course, your neighborhood cosplaying goof, Jesse Whitedeer. I might wrestle the Invisible Man after this. I might do it with my hands in my pockets. I might have some goofy-ass sunglasses on while I'm doing it. I might perform some really just comical kicks to your shins. And you will be baffled as a wrestling fan. And you'll ask my supporters, you'll say, why? Why does he do this? Why does he wrestle like this? And they'll say, hey, man, when he really wants to wrestle, he will. And then you'll ask them, you'll shake them probably, look them in their face and say, if he's a wrestler, how come he doesn't do that all the time? And then they'll say to you, well, he just doesn't want to. He doesn't listen to the veterans. So I'll leave you pondering with that. I am, of course, joined by the bombastic Bagman. He's a collection of sentient bags from Aldi's. He kind of like Spider-Man from Earth 11580. Of course, I am talking about your friend and mine, Cody Baggs with a Z. That's how you know he's cool. Of course, we got Ian Cooper, your favorite Oklahomie. He took a poll of 1,000 and got 1,000 votes in his favor. Isn't that exciting, everybody? Everyone unanimously agreed he's our favorite Oklahomie. Forget everybody else. They're second. And I think the Lord Jesus Christ himself is second to Ian Cooper. Those are my words, not theirs. Direct your hate mail at me. Of course, as always, we have the Shatter Machine himself, the Fragmented One, the Immortal. He cannot die, ladies and gentlemen. He is Chris Lawson, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Normally we would do the on this episode, but we didn't get any mail. So if you would like to direct a question at us, if you would like to direct a hate mail at myself, please send those over to the Instagram page or the Facebook page. That's 3ref at both of those. Or if you're into the old school and you want to send us an email, you can email us at that's3ref@yahoo.com. So thank you so much for joining us. Guys, how are you doing? How did I do on that intro?
Hell of a great intro, Jesse. Hell of a great intro. But yes, I am everybody's favorite Oklahoma. And if you don't know what Oklahoma is, brush up on it. It's Oklahoma. I'm your homie, Oklahoma. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me back. I was afraid I was not going to be asked back.
I don't know. Thank the booker of this fine show. Cody, how are you doing?
Maybe.
You spelled my name with a Z. It makes me feel like Vince Russo wrote that intro for you.
He probably did.
Did you understand the Spider-Man references there? The Spider-Man and the bombastic Bagman.
Oh, I did. Oh, I understood it. Huh. Every bit of it.
Well, you're welcome, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Of course, buddy. Of course. Fragmented Luchador. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Just here to.
Wow. Very spooky voice you got there. What's that?
I said, just here to have a hell of a time.
Me and Mary Jane, we're gonna have a hell of a time. So,
Yep.
Are we sure
Some
Vince
samurai.
didn't write it, or are we sure that it wasn't? He's just not one of the rejected robots from Mega Man.
I don't understand either one of those references. So, yeah, I don't know. But you know what I do know, fellas, is we're gonna go ahead and just get into this this pay-per-view. So of course we're talking about for Royal Rumble 1994, aired on January 22nd, 1994. So 10 days after my 4th birthday. So that's exciting. At the Providence Civic Center in Providence, Rhode Island. The buyer rate was reported for 200,000 and live attendance was 1,400. So this was the last Royal Rumble that aired on a Saturday until Royal Rumble 2022 or Royal Rumble 35 if you want to go that route. So pretty exciting there. Been to Providence, Rhode Island on a couple of occasions. Lovely place. So nothing there really. So some stipulations for this match. At Royal Rumble 1993, it was announced the winner would receive a title shot for WrestleMania later that year. This would carry on, of course, with 1994, and then there on out, or in later incarnations of the pay-per-view, it would be overshadowed by the Money in the Bank match. So Money in the Bank ladder match winner could cash in at any time. But traditionally, it's usually the Royal Rumble winner. So, just kind of whatever WWE is thinking at the time. Really Vince McMahon, I guess.
Much agree.
But yeah,
Yeah.
the first match. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying I'm agreeing with you 100% on that.
Thanks. So match one actually was so it's not the official match. It was a dark match between the Brooklyn Brawler and Jim Powers, with Brooklyn Brawler going over. The match length wasn't reported for this because it was a dark match. So traditionally, a dark match is usually exclusively for the live audience. So if you're not lucky to be in Providence that night, then you didn't see it. But I guess allegedly, Brooklyn Brawler won via swinging neck breaker. So pretty exciting stuff there. Can't really review the match because I don't know what happened. Anyways, kicking it over to our beginning match. Of course, we have Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow. So just a little insight on this. This was supposed to be a match between Tatanka and Ludwig Braga. Real name Tony Helm, Halme, Tony Helm, who actually sat on the Finnish Parliament from 2003 to 2007, where he ran as an independent. So, back in 1993, he was feuding with 10 years later, he's in the Finnish Parliament. So I don't know which one he's more excited about, ending Tatanka's undefeated streak or sitting on Parliament. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Probably Parliament. Not gonna lie. Ooh, Tatanka. Let's see here. Tatanka, Parliament. Probably people know more probably than Parliament, unless like us nerds, or me, that nerd that I should say.
I'm gonna vote Tatanka.
Okay.
I spent last year watching the majority of Monday Night Raw and Superstars from 1993. And I will say that we tend to forget now just how much they were pushing Tatanka at that time. It was clear, at least in my opinion, that he was never going to be a world champion. He wasn't that level, but he was top tier of the mid card, and they made a big deal about that undefeated streak for the longest time. So this match where Ludwig Borga beat him, it was the oddest choice a person to put over, in my opinion. I guess part of that is hindsight, knowing that nothing ever happens with Ludwig Borga. But the reaction from the crowd in the moment that he pins Tatanka, and he does it with one finger, by the way. He pins him with one finger on the chest, and the crowd lost it. So, Parliament is probably more important in the long run, I guess, if I have to be honest. But we got to remember, Tatanka was a bigger deal in 1993 than we remember him as in 2023.
Yeah, no doubt. I think for me, I think it's probably, I don't know what's better for you. Bam Bam, of course, is looking strong. Eventually, but it's not really a drop kick. He just kind of falls to his back, and then Tatanka just kind of sells it. So maybe the trajectory of Bam Bam pushed Tatanka down, or I don't know, but something happened there. But eventually Tatanka hits Bam Bam with a nice crossbody, beautiful DDT, really. And then Tatanka goes off the top rope, but he misses it. Eventually, in the corner, he gets crushed by Bam Bam. And it's noted that both guys will be in the Royal Rumble later. And eventually, let's see. So Vince McMahon notes that the winner of the Royal Rumble will get a shot at the heavyweight title at that year's WrestleMania, which was WrestleMania 10. And eventually we see our boy Tatanka in a bear hug from Bam Bam. The ref checks to see if he's okay. Kind of does that thing where he raises his hand. Are you okay? You okay? Tatanka makes a comeback though. Bam Bam shuts it down. Even match so far, just kind of a good back and forth. Both guys eventually go off the ropes and they hit a crossbody onto each other. Just really beautiful work. One thing that I wanted to note that Bam Bam was worked well for a big guy, very agile, just moved very well. Even though this was kind of short notice, they were just making each other look great in this match. But of course, going back to the match, he's doing the war dance. Bam Bam shuts that down, tries to hit Tatanka with a beautiful moonsault rather, or a backflip for you guys that, non-wrestling fans. Misses. Tatanka goes from the top, and it's over. Of course, we end it 8 minutes and 12 seconds. I will kick it over to you guys. What are your thoughts on this lovely match?
I'll go ahead and go. I have a couple quips that I noticed for this one. It was rest in peace Bam Bam, because as a kid I liked Bam Bam. So but there was one time that they were just zooming in on them, and they zoomed out and they said that great aerial shot. I thought that was pretty cool for the time, seeing like how many fans were there. I thought that was pretty cool. Looking at that, and they announced Bam Bam at like 300 pounds at one time, and to me as a kid, like 300 pounds, he's huge. Now looking at back, and I'm like, 300 pounds looks so much bigger back in 1994. Also, some of the announcing really that made me laugh, and I choked on my sweet tea, was when Ted DiBiase mentioned, he goes, Bam Bam has lots of guts, but he's not so very smart. I don't know why that was funny, but I thought it was. But to me, it was an okay match for being put together last minute, but that ending very much for me, I don't know, that just felt just really weird and out of place. I don't know. That's how I felt anyway about it. And that's all I got, Jesse.
Cody, Chris, you guys got something?
Yeah. So I noticed a few things. You already pointed out some of the stuff. Like you discussed the history between Tatanka and, I guess, first his original opponent, Ludwig Borga, but also the history between Tatanka and Bam Bam. So first thing I noticed is that I thought that was a really good substitute, since they weren't going to be able to continue the Borga feud at the moment. They went back to Tatanka's feud from before. So I like that. I thought it was a smart choice. It had to have been intentional, in my opinion, just to continue on what they had already been building on before. One thing I did notice, or I noted, watching Bam Bam there, I was thinking about this was the second run with the company, and I know this was getting closer to the end of this run. So all these things that he'd accomplished at this point, and I know he had more to accomplish before he left, but it made me curious, and I looked him up, and he was only 33 years old in this match. That just that stood out to me. That was kind of crazy to me, just thinking that's young for how much he had accomplished and the reputation he had built, not just in the WWF, but really across the world of professional wrestling. But that was something I thought of watching this match. I also did notice another thing. When was the last time that we had a wrestler do the war stomp? Can you guys remember the last time that we had a wrestler do the war stomp, at least in the WWE?
Nope.
Maybe when I think it was Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson, whenever Vince McMahon was kind of running shop. So I think Gerald Briscoe did one, correct?
I'm pretty sure he did, and that goes back to his early career. And I'm sure Tatanka did it again whenever he made his return in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
But that was just something I noticed, because back in that era, that was a thing, because we had Hulk Hogan hulking up, we had Jerry Lawler dropping the strap. Some of those were a little bit more believable than others. Some were a little bit more comical or cartoonish. But that was something I was thinking about. This, I guess now we refer to it mostly as hulking up. But that was something that we used to see a lot more in wrestling. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something I noticed watching Tatanka do his war stomp. The only other note that I made was going back to the feud with Bam Bam. I ended my notes on the match with a question of, was this meant to be Tatanka finally getting his, like, the final bit of his heat back for the feud he had? Because I can't remember all the details, but if I am remembering correctly, his feud with Bam Bam, it kind of fizzled out. There were a lot of storylines that were going back and forth back at that time. And I just can't remember a definitive ending for that particular feud. So my last note was the question of, was this how they decided to let Tatanka have his heat back against Bam Bam in the end? But that's really all that I had on that particular match.
Yeah. Before we move on, Chris, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, for me, like, being the fact that, like, I kind of came into this match, like, off, like, just, I was trying to remember all the stuff that happened beforehand, and it had been so long since I watched it, and I was sitting there, I was like, okay, so this match, I mean, to me in the beginning, I was like, man, this kind of seems like a weird match, saying that there was a feud beforehand, between, Ludwig and Tatanka, but then it's all of a sudden it's Bam Bam, it's back to Bam Bam again. And I'm like, to me, it seemed kind of rushed or very short notice, like you said before. But like all together, I mean, despite it being a short notice match, or maybe an idea that, like, was pitched because Ludwig couldn't show up, they decided to go back to this previous feud, like Cody said. And like, despite everything, it seemed really well put together. Of course, Tatanka ended up getting the one up. But it was one of the comments that was made, when Bam Bam was giving him the bear hug. I think it was $1 Million Man that said that it's kind of a weird positioning for a bear hug, because he was down at his waist. But he was like, but then he said the comment, I was like, but Bam Bam knows that the previous injury that Tatanka had with the ribs, so it's putting very pressure on that. So it's like kind of a cool thing that they made that made that little tie in there to show that maybe that would be the reason why he'd be so low on a bear hug per se, But But it was just, yeah, like I was saying, it was just kind of cool to see two men that like had a previous feud come back and actually put on a good show. And then you got Tatanka, he's starting to get hit, and then Bam Bam just going off on him, trying to hit him, and Tatanka's still doing his little war stomp or whatever. But then all of a sudden, here comes Bam Bam and just knocks him out cold. So it was kind of comical in that. He was just like, no, I'm done with this. You're down. But I don't know, like just for me, it was just kind of cool to see the revisitation of a former feud that the two of them had. So other than that, that's really all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think that it is like one thing that I miss is the great storytelling. You have, like you said, Ted DiBiase saying, "Oh well, he's working on the ribs. He's trying to wear him down. And then that's when they can kind of explain away, a lot of stuff, a lot of maybe misses or things of that nature. So I think that when you have a veteran commentator like Ted DiBiase or JR or someone of that ilk, they could do a really good job of just kind of maybe explaining things away or saying, well, this happened because of this, kind of on the fly type of stuff. So yeah, for sure. But kind of moving on here, we have of course we get a vignette or a video package of kind of what led to this Hart Brothers, and of course that's Bret and Owen Hart versus the Quebeckers. So it's Jacques and Pierre. Jacques and Pierre, of course, the tag champions. So they're coming in as champions. Hart Brothers are trying to unseat them. So on this rundown, Owen and Bret were involved in a elimination match. Owen, bounces off the ropes. Bret, unfortunately, is on the apron, accidentally knocks him over. That causes a distraction. Shawn Michaels, who was also in this match, gets the roll up, pins Owen. A little bit later, Owen has words with Bret in the ring, says, hey, kind of what's going on. There's a lot of back and forth. And then it kind of cuts to a video. Or it doesn't kind of, it cuts to a video of Vince McMahon. So he's interviewing Owen. He's asking Owen, hey, do you live in Bret's shadow? Owen, is going through his emotions, saying, no, I don't live, in my brother's shadows, and then it kind of ends with Owen challenging Bret. They're at the end of this video. Of course, the snake that he is, Vince McMahon, interviews Bret shortly after this, and he asks Bret if Bret's down, and of course Bret has this kind of classic Bret Hart line where he kind of like he just says things, but he kind of like as he says them, it's kind of like he's like thinking about it. So of course the line is he says, well, a great fight is a great fight, and then so love Bret Hart, maybe not the most articulate fellow, but master in the ring. So don't want to disparage Bret Hart at all. I just kind of thought that line was funny. But Bret says that he won't fight Owen. And it's revealed that they have a sit down over the Christmas holiday, I believe. So and they hash these things out. So of course it cuts to Owen Hart and Bret Hart challenging the Quebeckers for the title. Owen, says, hey, we're going to get those titles. He keeps talking about a Rocket. And I forgot that he was going by the Rocket Owen Hart. So I was kind of confused by that because I was like, and he's really like leaning into this word Rocket. Like I thought maybe there was going to be an ad for Rocket Pops. Maybe the Houston space station, maybe NASA was giving him that money. I don't know. I was kind of confused by that. But anyways, so of course we see it cuts to the 1, 2, 3 Kid or Sean Maltman, for you, the X-Pac, for those of you out there, and Mario Jannetty. So they had beat the Quebeckers for the belt. Of course, the next week on Raw, the Quebeckers beat the 1-2-3 Kid and Marty Jannetty, get their belts back. And of course, we got Todd Pettengill on this interview. And then another thing that I wanted to note is it shows Bret Hart. He's talking about the 1-2-3 Kid, and I guess maybe he just messes up the line, but it sounds like he forgets his name because he says it, and then he kind of says, like, you can see this recognition in his face where he says, yeah, the 1-2-3 Kid, and then he kind of says, yeah, the 1-2-3 Kid. So I just thought that was funny. But of course, Owen Hart, says, hey, we're gonna bring those, we're gonna bring them home back to Canada, good old Canada. So, but yeah, and of course, the match starts with the Quebeckers. They're coming out with Johnny Polo. So Raven of all people, back when he had his Johnny Polo gimmick. He's coming out in just some like awful looking like a cane, but it's not a, what were you gonna say, Ian?
I said I don't know what that outfit was.
It was like genie pants, and then he had on not a flannel shirt, a Hawaiian shirt, like a straw hat, and then he had a cane, and then he's just like, and then so I can't remember if I think he was supposed to be like a prep, like a kind of a highfalutin individual. But I like the simple look of the Quebeckers. Both shirts, tights, glasses, look strong, coming out. And of course, we get the Hart brothers coming out to a loud pop, and Hitman and the Rocket, come out, just to a tremendous boom of applause. The $1 Million Man calls Owen the Shadow, which I thought was funny. Owen, always the good guy, gives his glasses to a kid, in the ring. But of course, we got Bret and Pierre starting off. I always forget how just great both of the Hart brothers are, especially in this at the beginning of this match with Bret. I just thought like I forget how good wrestling's supposed to be, and I'm just always marveled by that. But of course, Owen gets the tag in. Just really has some beautiful, impressive stuff here. Owen Hart not too far behind Bret. I mean, some would say overexceeds him in the ring. Some would say, is on par. But I mean, it's just some beautiful stuff. Of course, we got Jock that tags in. He and Owen go at it. Owen hits his famous rocket shot. The Hart brothers with just some nice tag team work. Just beautiful technical stuff. In and out, working great as a team. Of course, the Quebeckers. They're reminding me they're a great bruiser tag team, especially for this era, really reminiscent of maybe Doom, around or before this time rather. So Doom, LOD, the Road Warriors, Demolition, I think Quebeckers are on that, not necessarily on that level, but just on that level as far as functioning as a bruiser tag team, clubbing blows, using strength over technicality. But just some beautiful stuff here. We got Owen coming in strong, gets beat up. Bret comes in, gets beat up. Eventually, we see Bret try to bounce off the ropes. Johnny Polo, Raven, opens the middle rope. Bret goes barreling out, hurts his knee. Quebeckers go on the outside, work on his knee. I remember thinking that this has got to be longer than a 10 count because they're both Quebeckers on the outside beating up Bret. And the ref is like counting, but then he's kind of like, I guess he just forgets, or he just doesn't count at all. I wasn't really paying too much attention to that. But of course, we get Bret in the ring, and he's just getting his butt kicked. Hurt knee. The guys are working on him. I think at one point Johnny Polo hands one of the Quebeckers his cane. Bret's just in all kinds of. That's for a very just sloppy sharpshooter. And I say sloppy in the way that, his knee was hurt. So, of course, can't be the excellence of execution on one knee. Just tries to get the sharpshooter in on Jock. can't continue. Referee Timothy White calls it. Brett's just selling the injury. Owen comes in, just upset, saying, hey, you should have tagged me. You should have tagged me. Just really in Brett's face, and you think like, all right, well, Owen, said his piece, but at the end of the day, they're both brothers. But no, Owen takes out Brett's knee, attacks him, yells at him for not tagging in, just leaves him laying there. And the fans are just, wondering, like, is Brett even going to make it into the Royal Rumble match, later on? But of course, this match ends with 16 minutes and 48 seconds. Just a beautiful work on both. A bruiser tag team kind of beat them up rough and tumble from the Quebeckers, and just some superior technical work from the Hart Brothers. So just great stuff, really. I mean, I don't really have too many notes on that, but I mean, I'm always in marvel of how great both Brett and Owen are, but especially as a tag team, and of course, later on, we would see Brett and Owen in the Hart Foundation. But before that, them as a tag team was some lovely stuff. But I'll go ahead and kick it over to you, Cody. You had some thoughts on this match?
Yes. So I think you did a great job covering the beats of the match. Never praise the Harts enough. So I did make some notes on them, but you did a good job of covering all that. But two things that I really wanted to talk about that were actually the Quebeckers that really stood out to me. The first thing was that the first time Owen tags into the match, he goes in with Jacques. Did you guys notice there were several seconds where there was no contact? Jacques comes in and he starts clapping for Owen. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So what this made me think about, we know that Owen just came back from this heel run. More of a mini heel run, but it didn't last that long. He and Brett have made up. But the fans watched Owen turn on Brett once already. They saw him with this new heel persona. And so I thought that was really interesting that the first time one of the Quebeckers gets in the ring, he's not treating Owen like he treats Brett. He's treating him better. He's showing him respect. And it's like heel to heel, or, for you guys out there that don't follow wrestling super closely, it's bad guy. So he comes in, you see him trashing Brett. You can make out some of what he's saying. He's like waving him off, but he'll turn to Owen and he'll smile and he'll start clapping. I thought that was great. That was great foreshadowing for what would come later, in my opinion. But it was also just a nice touch either way, that they acknowledge, hey, you were a bad guy like us not that long ago. So I really like that little touch that Jacques brings into the match at the beginning. And to build off of that, the other thing I wanted to point out, you mentioned when the Quebeckers had Brett down outside the ring and the ref wasn't counting like he was supposed to be. And, I have a problem whenever the wrestlers bury the referee, which for anyone that doesn't know what that means, it's you make the referee look bad by breaking the rules blatantly in front of them and they can't do anything about it. So I typically don't like that, but there was something about the way the Quebeckers made this work. The taunting. They were taunting Brett. They were taunting Owen. They were taunting the referee. If I remember right, they were coming back into the ring occasionally to break the count. I could be wrong about that, but probably not enough. But that is classic heel work right there. Just the way that they were riling up the crowd, and you can hear everyone is going crazy at this point. They have brought them in. They've invested them, the fans, into how just making them so angry. And it was great heel work. Something that I think we forget about the Quebeckers because they're not one of the most iconic tag teams in WWE or WWF history. At least I tend to kind of overlook them until I go back and watch some of their work. And so just to add to what you were saying about them being a great bruiser team, they were just a great heel team in general. The psychology, the way they rile up the fans, the way they play with the other team's emotions, like Owen, it just good quality stuff. Everything else I had is stuff that you already touched on, but those were two things that I wanted to point out myself. So whoever's ready to go next.
What about you, Ian? What are you thinking?
Well, to be honest, I didn't watch all of the match, but I watched the promo and everything but I don't know why as a fan, I've been a fan since, like I said before in episode 1 of that, I've been a fan since 98, 99, and I never really went back and watched that, but I don't know, for some reason, and here's probably going to be my hate mail on this, but I loved Brett. I thought Brett was a great wrestler, but I just think in style, like, I know he was the fan favorite. Everyone loved Brett. He was like the next line for people, some opinions that Brett was going to be the next Hulk, is like going to be like the next Hogan per se, if you know what I mean, the next big face or good guy. But I don't know why. I just always seem to like Owen a lot better. I don't know. I just think he had more charisma. And I don't know, watching that video package with when Owen was talking, even if, like I said, even though he was going a little ballistic with the Rocket and everything, I didn't honestly remember that he was calling himself the Rocket, because I remember when he eventually turned to the Blackheart. But I don't know why. I've just always been a bigger fan of Owen than I ever was of Brett. And I don't know. Just this how I felt about it. Like I said, I didn't really watch that match that much, but like I said, just knew that I was like, when I was remembering, oh yeah, it was funny because you see this and you see that heel turn, and then you're like, oh, no, but they're going to get along great. But I'm like, you can already kind of seal that in, like Cody touched on, is that the foreshadowing. But it was kind of like, you even see kind of the foreshadowing when he was when Brett and Owen were both talking together. It seemed like a couple times it looked like this is just me personally, but I just noticed every time that Brett was talking, Owen was glancing at him and giving him this look like, I'm going to stab you in the back and you have no idea. Well, that's just my feeling anyway.
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, like, so with me, this match, I mean, you got to see, like, in the beginning, you got to see that technical side of both the Hart brothers, and it was kind of nice. I mean, even when I can't remember which one it was, but one of the Quebeckers had him in like the arm bar, and then he did the rollover and the flip over. You know, it was kind of cool to see that, like, the agility and athleticness that Owen had, that, you know, you got to see when he was doing his thing. But one thing that Cody pointed out whenever, you know, I think it was Pierre, you know, he's pointing at Owen and he was saying, you're number one, and then he was pointing over at Brett and saying, you know, he was doing the little thumbs down, you know, he says, you're the one, he's not, you know. And it was kind of like that cool, like he was saying, like, that bad guy to bad, like trying to get in Owen's head, you know, basically playing mind games with him, saying that you're more over than he is, and you know, you should know that. But like with this match, like, it was kind of cool to see the tag team action between the both teams. And then Jesse, you mentioned it was Johnny Polo had a cane. It was actually a putter that was painted blue because, you know, Johnny Polo, he had the golfer look, you know, or whatever. But he carried around that putter, and which ultimately became a tool of destruction when you know, they later on in the match would use it against Brett to further injure the knee that would be his downfall, the Hart brothers' downfall in this match. But and then, you know, the whole thing with you know, how the match was seeming to be more on the outside, you know, like the ref would be counting, and then all of a sudden he'd be interrupted or whatever by Owen, one of the Quebeckers, and he would just start count. He would start his count over. I mean, like they were out there for maybe what 50% of the match that was there, and then when they finally got in the thing, that you saw the Quebeckers very very much targeting the knee of Bret Hart, and then when it came to the later of the match where Bret Hart would he would kind of try to, you could see him trying to crawl to the corner of the match, but then he didn't realize where he was. He tried to crawl to the opposite corner where Owen was not, be like, dude, he's over there, not here, over there. And then he would just kind of try to flip himself over to get into a sharpshooter and ultimately not be able to get up on his knee because it was injured. And then, then that would be the be all tell all to where, finally one of the Quebeckers get a tag, and then I think they get a tag. I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's been a couple days since I watched it, but like it was just, that was basically after that was kind of what ended the match, because one of them ended up getting the pin, and and you got to see the little interaction between Owen and Bret really favoring that knee and trying to get up but can't, and then once he finally does get up, they have that little argument. He goes, "You should have just tagged me. You should have just tagged me. All you had to do was tag me." And then like he ultimately kicks the knee out, and then he gets out of the ring and talks to the camera as he's going down. And you hear one thing I wanted to note was I noted was how Ted DiBiase was very much praising the fact that Owen turned on his brother and was showing the really heel side of himself finally, and getting out from underneath that shadow of Bret Hart, So, like I said, it was kind of disheartening to see the Hart brothers feuding like that, because they were at the time they were a really big favorite of mine, as is probably with so many other people. But like, yeah, it was just kind of disheartening to see two of my favorite wrestlers feuding and going up against each other when they should just be, being the brothers they are. And I don't know. That's really all I have to say about that.
No, I got you. I will correct you on the fact, though. It was actually Tim White that waved the match off, so there was no pin.
You're right. Yeah, that is right. Because
okay.
Because Bret Hart couldn't.
Yeah. No, good. But yeah. But which I mean, I guess I like that. It kind of saves Bret from looking weak, by getting pinned by one of the Quebeckers. So I mean, I can understand. It makes sense, I guess. But kind of, I just wanted to touch on something that you said, Chris. The $1 Million Man really praising Owen, and then I'll use this as a transition to the next match. But Owen's going up, saying, "Hey, he should have tagged me. He should have tagged me." And then of course $1 Million Man hits us, says, what it takes to be on top, which I wanted to know. The entire time I was thinking about that, I was like, not only is the $1 Million Man one of the wrestling's greatest bad guys, but he's also kind of a bad guy in real life. Of course, referring to that fraud charge that $1 Million Man was involved in. So I'll just read this quick tidbit real. So in February of 2020, it was reported that DiBiase's ministry, unaware, Ted DiBiase, I think, became a devout Christian around 1999. Went on a series of like motivational speeches, and Christian work and stuff, ministry, things like that. But anyway, so it's reported that DiBiase's ministry received more than $2.1 million in welfare funds from the state of Mississippi after his son Bret was hired as deputy administrator of the state's Department of Human Services. His son Bret pleaded guilty to creating fraudulent statements in what has been labeled as Mississippi's largest public embezzlement case in state history. In October of 2021, a court ordered DiBiase Sr. to pay $722,299 of the misappropriated funds given to David Ministries rather. In May of 2022, the Mississippi Department of Human Services sued DiBiase, his sons, and retired NFL quarterback Brett Favre, of all people, and several others to cover more than $20 million in money squandered from the TANF program. And then real quick, I just want to note that in April of 2022, the Mississippi Office of State Auditor reported that DiBiase personally received a $250,000 check from the Family Resource Center, a Mississippi welfare grantee, to provide services as a motivational speaker. One of the ways DiBiase was caught, he actually forwarded an email of his sons, DiBiase Jr. and Ted DiBiase Jr. rather, and Brett DiBiase, saying, look what I got today. So I'm assuming he did his iconic laugh there. So just some interesting stuff from Ted DiBiase. So just kind of wanted to include that in there. Little bit of real life bad guy work. So yeah. So
everybody's got a price, Jesse.
Everybody has a price.
Everybody has a price. That's right. So yeah. Don't really have any words other than that. But what I do got is the match number 3 here. So we got Razor Ramon and IRS for the IC title, or the Intercontinental title, that had began feuding prior to SummerSlam 1993 because of an angle in which Ted DiBiase and IRS probably thinking of in the future of how much money he's going to get. It seems like he could have called IRS about that fraudulent charge. Seems like IRS would have had some good legal advice, maybe some legal loopholes. But alas,
Maybe.
but they were making fun of Ramon after losing to the 1-2-3 Kid, a newcomer to WWF at that time. And of course, the rivalry heated up when IRS stole Razor Ramon's gold chains, while Shawn Michaels had Razor Ramon distracted. Ramon and IRS agreed to settle their feud with Ramon's Intercontinental Championship on the line. I will note that Shawn Michaels also was calling himself the IC champion and had a fake Intercontinental title made. But just kind of starting this match, Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon took over on commentary. And then I want to go ahead and note about their entrances. So IRS comes down to the ring and is just saying in the camera, hey, everyone pay their taxes, pay their taxes, which I wanted to ask, is IRS kind of like a vampire? Like, if you don't agree to pay your taxes, can he enter your home? Or do you have to make a statement on either one? I mean, either answer. Just kind of curious there. But just kind of kicking over to here.
Would you fair to say if for us
Jim Ross and
sorry.
Would I say what?
I was just saying, because you said, is he like a vampire? Is that foreshadowing for saying that you have to let him in? No pun intended.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. Maybe Bray Wyatt was back there. Wyndham Rotunda, excuse me. Yeah, that guy.
He's great.
Yeah, maybe he got that idea. I don't know. Who knows? But I will note that Razor Ramon comes down to the ring in style, and just some beautiful work here. Comes down really looking good, coming off the bus, getting off the bus, as they say. They ask the JR and Gorilla Monsoon ask, what's in the briefcase? Razor Ramon's chains. Maybe it's Jimmy Hoffa. They didn't say that. I said that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's some books that IRS needs to take back to the library. Maybe it's the Pride and Prejudice. Maybe he's just stuck on that last chapter. Who knows? Just rambling here. But so Matt starts out. Razor Ramon knocks IRS down, hammers him. Of course, IRS, had rushed Razor Ramon prior to that. Cuts. So while they're kind of going at it, I wanted to note that the camera cuts to the crowd, and you see a lot of kids out there, celebrating, or not celebrating, but acting out in front of the camera, yelling and stuff. And then you just see a very confused Mexican man in a suit who just who looks completely lost in this, which I thought was hilarious. But so we get IRS. He knocks Razor Ramon to the floor, him up, and then the floor to the outside rather. So IRS brings him back in, goes up top, and then Razor Ramon sticks his foot out, and it looks like that spot was like what they call a botch or a mess up. I'm thinking that IRS was supposed to sell getting kicked in the face, but he just kind of like he stops. So I don't know if he's supposed to take the kick and he misses, or he's supposed to avoid the kick and then he hits Razor Ramon with an elbow. But that kind of transition just looked a little kind of off to me. But I really do love Gorilla Monsoon talk about the differences of styles. Saying that Razor Ramon's more of a street fighter. He likes to brawl, that type of stuff. Not a great wrestler, but more of a striker brawler. Just love that, and then they mention, I think at one point, IRS's amateur background, say that, he's more of a wrestler. But eventually we get IRS. He gets Razor Ramon in a rear chin lock. It's got him down on the ground, choking him. It seems like it kind of goes on forever there, a little bit long. IRS gets his feet on the rope to kind of sell the choke a little bit longer. Eventually, we see Razor Ramon back on his feet, knocks IRS down. And then so we hear actually JR compare the pressure that Razor Ramon is feeling to Joe Montana. So I guess there was a NFL match or NFL game right after this, or the next day after or whatever. I'm not a football guy, so no idea there. But so we see the spot where the ref gets knocked down. So I believe that it's IRS that gets shot into the corner and knocks down the ref. So I kind of, I go back and forth with this this kind of spot, but is whenever the ref gets knocked down and he's having to sell for a really long time. So either something can be changed or whatever, or sometimes it's just kind of a transition or whatever. Here, I kind of liked it. I thought that it made sense, I guess. Of course, the ref for this match was Joey Marnella. Yeah, so unfortunately, Razor Ramon throws IRS into the corner. The ref is in the way, gets knocked out, actually. Razor Ramon doesn't know this, though. Tries to hit the Razor's edge. Shawn Michaels comes out and hits Razor with the fake IC title. And of course, as I alluded to earlier, Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels were feuding over the IC title, and Shawn Michaels had created his own. So the ref is knocked out. IRS goes for the win. It looks like he wins, but his music doesn't play. You see him celebrating with the title. And then eventually referee Earl Hebner comes out to the ring and explains the situation to Marnella. So once Shawn Michaels' fake belt was discovered in the ring, the match is restarted. Of course, IRS is on the middle rope celebrating. Just the Razor's Edge hits the Razor's Edge rather. 1, 2, 3 victory for Razor Ramon. They go 11 and a half minutes. So just some beautiful work here. Like I said, I wanted to note kind of the contrast of styles. But one thing I wanted to say here before kicking it over is I love that. I love those kind of JRR isms where he'll compare things in this match when you have Razor, when you have IRS, and you have the ref kind of laying out on the floor. JR compares this to a 3-car pileup on I-95, which I thought was a little bit morbid for the time. But nonetheless, JR, one of the best in the game. still to this day. So, but yeah. So I'll go ahead and kick this over. We'll go Cody, Ian, and then Chris. Starting with you, Cody. What do you got for this match?
Okay. Yeah, again, you did a pretty good job covering everything. I did notice, though, when Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon took over, it made me think about Bobby Heenan. Because, like I said, I've watched pretty much everything from 93 recently. And I guess I was a year off because I kept thinking that Heenan left the WWE in 95 or the end of 94. I didn't realize he had actually left at the very end of 93. So when Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon came on commentary, I started really missing Bobby Heenan. But I guess I was just about a year off from whenever he left the company. But yeah, I thought you did a good job covering the details. I thought it was a nice touch, adding that IRS allegedly had Razor Ramon's chains in his briefcase. That was a nice addition to the story. I also like the emphasis on allegedly. One other thing I wanted to comment on, though, you pointed out a moment that I noticed in the match as well, when the match really slowed down. You remember the part I'm talking about, Jesse?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So watching that, I got a little curious. You notice that they're slowing it down, they're getting into a hold, and they're kind of just hanging out there for a minute. And it made me wonder first, is something wrong? Is something off? Are they buying time? But then I also wondered if they were possibly trying to let the crowd kind of come down a little bit. And then I thought about it, and I was thinking just how into the pay-per-view the crowd had been up to this point. I mean, even the Tatanka match with Bam Bam, the crowd was going 100% the whole time. And you hear a lot of, or at least some promoters, talk about how you need to give your crowd a little bit of room to breathe, and you kind of need to bring it down a little bit so that they don't burn out before the end of the pay-per-view. So I started wondering if there could be some of that going on in this match, because it was quite a bit more toned down than the matches before it, and they weren't getting quite as much reaction from the crowd, but it almost seemed intentional. Now, I could be completely wrong on that. It could have been something else going on with those guys. But that's just the impression that I got, because when they slowed down, they brought the crowd down with them. But then by the end of it, when the interference from HBK came in, they brought the crowd back up. But that was a note that I made, something that I thought was kind of curious and made me wonder exactly what was going on. But really, those are the only two other things that I noted outside of what we talked about.
What about you, Ian? What do you got? Ian, hello.
Sorry, I was on mute. That's typical me. Sorry about that. But yeah, I did end up getting to watch that match. It was you guys both pointed out a lot of the good same points and everything. I just forgot until we started recording everything and talking earlier. Chris, you mentioned it really great, that how I forgot how good Scott Hall actually was. That I am still to this day baffled at why they never pulled the trigger on a Scott Hall WWF title. Because he if anybody deserved it, I think Scott Hall did. I know he later on in life had his demons and everything, and rest in peace, the bad guy. But man, that's somebody they should have, who they had so much opportunity in that. Like, those kids were freaking out and going cheering crazy for Scott Hall. Why didn't they ever put the belt? That's the one question I've always wondered, why they never put that belt on Scott Hall, because he can bring he was the young kids, one of the kids really like. So that's what I feel anyway about. And I thought it was a good match.
Chris, what do you got?
So for me, this was like, I don't know, this match, I loved it. I mean, me being a huge Scott Hall fan, or Razor Ramon at the time. He was the bad guy, oozing machismo. He came out literally straight out the gate. He started off the match started off with him just really taunting. He's like, "Hey, where's my chains? Where's my bling at?" For not really, he didn't say bling because that really wasn't word, but he was motioning to his neck. He was like, "Where are my chains at?" And then they started to have a little spat, and then all of a sudden he does the classic throw. He takes his toothpick out of his mouth and he throws it at him, and that's where they kind of get heavy, and then he starts hitting blow after blow, and then Irving, our shyster, as you would call it, or Mr. IRS, rolls out of the ring because he's like, "No, I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that." So he's trying to get away from the bad guy. So and then from there, like once he finally gets back in the ring, Scott Hall or Razor Ramon, keeps on with his persistence of really beating this guy down, and then finally there's the point where like finally Mr. IRS gets a hit in, and then it knocks Scott Hall to his back, and that's one thing that Scott Hall always did. When he fell to his back, it was like a big giant tree just falling down flat. And that's one thing that he was real good at selling that big fall. But this match really was one of my favorites of the night, like because you had the classic bad guy work for Mr. IRS. He was at one point he had Scott Hall in that headlock, and when the ref would get down real low, he'd put his feet on the belt just to get the rope just to get a little bit more leverage, and then when the ref would pop up, he'd take him off real quick, and then the ref would get real down low, and he'd put his feet right back up there, and then finally when it caught him, and started really grilling him about, did you put your foot on that rope? He was really pointing at him and giving him the whatnot and about it, and then what Cody was saying, when he got to that point where the ref had been knocked out and he goes to hit the Razor's Edge, and all of a sudden from out of nowhere Shawn Michaels shows up, hits him with that belt, and then in his very charismatic I'm the best thing around kind of way, he laughs his way back to the back of the into the back, and then so it comes to the factor of the ref finally starting to wake up, and he I guess pins Scott Hall, or I keep saying Scott Hall, but he ends up pinning Razor Ramon, and they do the 3 count, and then Mr. IRS thinks he wins, and then Earl Hebner comes out, and then he's like, no, that's not what happened. This is the real belt. That's not. So, and then they end up continuing the match where, like you said, Jesse, where Mr. IRS was on the second rope, and finally Scott Hall gets up and grabs him for a real big, Razor's Edge. So, and then he ends up winning the match, and he walks out with his machismo and awesomeness, carrying both belts. He's like kind of looking at the one belt. He's like, this is kind of weird, but okay. And then he holds him up real big and high, and gets his, and then goes on. But like I said, this was really one of my favorite matches. You got to see a story be told, not only beforehand, you got to see, kind of like the storytelling in the ring. And that's one thing I always love about, like, when wrestlers can tell the story in the ring through whatever's going on. But I will say Razor Ramon really was on top most of this match, and like it was just some of those like little off points where, like Cody said, it was kind of they had that slow down and trying to calm the crowd down, and then once everything happened and got brought back up, it was back to booming again. And it was like you could barely hear what was going on. You could, like, I would just want to be in that crowd just to hear the decibel level of how loud that crowd really was, because it seemed, even just watching it again, it seemed like it would be very loud and kind of hard to think as even a wrestler trying to be in that ring. So, but yeah, that's really all I got to say about it.
The co-main event, I guess. We get a preview of this casket match between Yokozuna and The Undertaker for the WWF Heavyweight Championship. We get a preview of the casket match. I think Paul Bearer is just absolutely great in this match. He's really selling the manager role. So we get Undertaker, who wishes Yokozuna a Merry Christmas, and then ho ho ho's, which I think was just great. So we cut to Yokozuna just looking terrified. The Undertaker does say a pretty cool line about the Hounds of Hell. Undertaker says that he does, which I don't know what, I guess, and at the time, excuse me, at the time I think it sounds cool, but I don't know. Maybe very mistake. Not sure. But anyways, Undertaker. I like that Undertaker has his own shack. So there's like a shot of a shack, and it says, and I will add that Undertaker is, I guess, a carpenter, because he's actively building Yokozuna's casket in this like shack. So it cuts to the outside, and we see, I'm not joking, there's a wooden sign that says Undertaker, and it's nailed to the outside of the shack, which I think is kind of adorable, honestly. But anyways, we cut to a video of Jim Cornette just looking splendid in a beautiful suit, telling Yokozuna, hey, smash this casket. Of course, we're on Raw right now. But so Yokozuna, his managers, Mr. Fu, on episode of Raw, encouraging Yokozuna to smash this casket. And then the Undertaker pops out. So, but a little bit of information there. The rivalry between Yokozuna and Undertaker began at Survivor Series 1993. Yokozuna was pushed as an unstoppable monster who was unable to inflict any damage. So, kind of a big monstrous here or there. But so in his match with Undertaker at Survivor Series, he was unable to inflict any serious damage on Taker. Slammed his head into the steel steps leading up to the ring. Still couldn't hurt him. Later on, Yokozuna finishing move, the bonsai drop. Undertaker sits out of it, really surprising Yokozuna and his managers. And eventually, it's revealed that Undertaker lands or is granted a title shot with Yokozuna at a casket match. Kind of a little bit of a story there. Undertaker chose a casket match because I guess Yokozuna has a fear of caskets, so a bit of a psychological edge there. And then at one point, like I had mentioned earlier, Paul Bearer brings the casket to the ring to intimidate Yokozuna. Yokozuna goes to crash it. Undertaker pops out, scares the crap out of him. Just some good stuff there. But so the match starts out with Howard Finkel giving us the rundown of the casket match. Basically, you have to incapacitate your opponent, put him in the casket, and then shut it for the casket match to actually be over. And then Yokozuna makes his entrance, and he is joined by Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji. Jim Cornette, Yokozuna at this time as his American representative. Jim Cornette, of course, was running Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which was a smaller wrestling organization at this time. And Jim Cornette, of course, came into the WWF at that time at 1993, managing the Heavenly Bodies. So he had a contract with WWF, was running Smoky Mountain, but also managing for WWF on the side. Yokozuna and the Heavenly Bodies, excuse me, Yokozuna and the Heavenly Bodies, of course, being his two clients, or his two major clients at the time. But anyways, so we see Undertaker come down the ring in, pushing Undertaker walking behind a casket, rather. Paul Bearer pushing the casket down through the ring. We have a good face-up. Undertaker and Yokozuna face to face. Yokozuna charges Undertaker. Undertaker retaliates with strikes. Eventually, we get Yokozuna, who falls to the outside, comes back in. We see Undertaker hitting what's known as the old school, but is beating him up in the corner. walks in the ropes, comes down, clobbers him in the back of the head. Yokozuna goes back to the outside, and then they exchange chair shots. So they're and of course the casket match is no disqualification. Undertaker and Yokozuna exchange chair shots. Eventually, Yokozuna gets some sand, throws that in Undertaker's eyes. Very reminiscent of Dale Gribble there, pocket sand. And then we see Undertaker with sand in his eyes, trying to trying to get at Yokozuna. Yokozuna hits him with a chair, beats him up, tries to roll him in the casket. Undertaker rather stands up in the casket, grabs Yokozuna's foot, fights back, hits Yokozuna with the belly to belly. Yokozuna sits up, back and forth. Undertaker with beautiful DDT. Paul Bearer holds up the urn. It powers Undertaker up. Undertaker tries to roll Yokozuna into the casket, goes down and closes it, but Yokozuna is not completely in. Of course, we see Crush, a heel at the time, come out and attacks Undertaker. Of course, we're talking about Crush the wrestler, not Orange Crush the soda. So Undertaker hits him with a nice clothesline. Kabuki then comes out. Then Pedro comes out. Bam Bam Bigelow comes out. And then we cut to Yokozuna, who I guess is asleep in the casket from all this hard work. Eventually, we see Mr. Fuji steal the urn. Yokozuna wakes up as they try to put Undertaker in the casket on top of him, which I thought was maybe just ill timing. Paul Bearer gets the urn back, beats up Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette on the outside. Undertaker wakes up, starts kicking, but Adam Bomb shows up. Jeff Jarrett shows up. Then the head shrinkers show up. Undertaker sits up, beats some more dudes up. I want to note that at this point, Bam Bam Bigelow and Yokozuna are just kind of chilling on the ropes, just hanging out. Eventually, they beat Undertaker down. Undertaker makes a comeback. Then Diesel comes out. Yokozuna steals the urn. Undertaker still down. He hits Undertaker with the urn. Green smoke comes out of the urn. I want to note that Yokozuna looked very disinterested at this point. He was just kind of like, okay, green smoke, who cares? They take turns beating up Undertaker from the top, just really giving him the what for. They roll Undertaker into the casket. They shut it. Bam Bam Bigelow jumps on top, and it's over. The bell rings. So I mean, and that's it. So they're rolling the casket up the ramp. Jeff Jarrett, I want to note, is just absolutely jacked. He's like pumping a fist in the air, celebrating, screaming at the top of his lungs. Eventually, all the heels are all around all the bad guys are all around the casket. The casket starts smoking, and then we hear just the Undertaker bells. Yokozuna is wondering what the fuck is going on. I think everyone's wondering what's going on. We get Undertaker on the big screen. He delivers a chilling message. Undertaker, wakes up on screen, gives us a message, says, "Be not proud. The spirit of the Undertaker lives in the soul of every man." So I think we all have a little bit of Undertaker in all of us. Says, "I will not rest in peace." Screen flashes white, and I think one of the funny parts about this match, Undertaker on screen goes into heaven. Goes up to the top. He turns white, goes up to the top of the screen, and then in the arena we see Undertaker levitating towards the ceiling. So I guess all Undertakers really do go to heaven. A little bit later, behind the scenes, Marty Jannetty was actually the one dressed up as the Undertaker as he floats to the ceiling. And then we see, of course, the hills are scared away. I like that $1 Million Man is just like trying to sell this, but he just seems confused, like he doesn't know what's going on. But it's and he's really trying to sell how scary this is. Really very cartoony stuff from the WWF at this time. But of course, we see Paul Bearer pay homage to the Undertaker, and then the kind of segment ends there. But I want to get you guys' thoughts, starting with you, Ian, and then we'll kick it over to Chris. What you think about this match?
Classic Undertaker match, casket match. Man, Undertaker's one of my favorites. He's on my Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. But I'm going to point out some of the things I probably going to mention some of the same things you did. But like Paul, man, I miss Paul Bear. Percy Pringle, just one of a million one of the best managers of all time. And my Undertaker, the ghostly voice of his is my childhood. And just remembering how to be honest, I don't think I was really ever scared of Undertaker, but I was more scared of Paul Bearer, because I think knowing that he'd send the Undertaker, I think that was more scary for me as a kid. But also noticing with Taker, his purple eyeliner, I'm like, that kind of made me laugh. I'm like, that he had that purple eyeliner. Then I also, as a kid, I can't believe, looking back on it, knowing that Yokozuna in the bonsai drop and everything, but thinking that, man, this is a big Japanese guy. And then later on to find out Samoan, that just kind of cracked my little world when I found out that he was actually Samoan, not Japanese. So I thought that was kind of funny. Seeing Jim Cornette, I'm like, oh man, what a jerk. I remember how much I didn't like Jim Cornette, and still to this day, I like him, what he's done for the business. Jim Cornette, I have my hit or miss. So if Cody ever does talk about Jim Cornette, like I said, I'm hit and miss with Jim Cornette, so I don't have really opinion on him. But also, man, that pop was just ridiculous. Like, that was loud for Scott Hall's Razor's match, but also huge for Taker, because you can tell people love the Undertaker. Also, just that classic walk of just everything was awesome. And then I heard Vince, one of his signature lines when he was talking about Yokozuna, he called him 600 pounds of jellyfish. Like, 600 pounds of jellyfish? What the hell are you talking about, Vince? But also, there was a couple times it looks like when they were on the outside, it looks like you could tell Taker was, when he was holding them and they were doing their moves out. It looked like a couple times there, like you could see Taker was calling like kind of the spots, or saying what they were going to do. It's not trying to intentionally, because I don't know how long. I guess Taker's been there for a little while, but it just kind of like, to me, it looked like he was kind of calling spots. But also, what came into play that was kind of cool is that, you remember, you see folding chairs now, they're the black folding chairs, but the chairs back in the early 90s were the blue chairs. And I just thought that was a really cool touch, because I haven't seen the blue chairs in forever. Also, the salt spot, that, oh no, that's what's going to take Taker out, is the salt. And then also, there's a part where they're fighting on the outside, but you can see they're zoomed in, they have the audience looking, but then you can see this whole row of like college age frat boys, or like some people call them chads. They're like, you can see like, kid, we're at the Undertaker match. And now who knows what those guys are up to nowadays. It's just funny just looking at them just being stupid, looking like stupid idiots. No pun intended with stealing Chris Jericho's line there. That choke slam, that was one of the most awful looking choke slams, and I know it takes two people to do the choke slam, but that just really looked kind of sloppy for me, as well as, man, I didn't realize how many people took to take out Taker, and I just thought that was really cool. That, and then also I was just like, I freaked out, because I was like, Jeff Jarrett, because I had to, like, right now I've been watching a lot of AEW, and it's so funny because that Jeff Jarrett still to this day is doing that wrestling and everything. And then just also wondering all the people who in that whole facade of jumping the Undertaker and everything, and like, how many of those guys, what are they doing now, or how many guys are no longer with us? But the very end, like I said, when he was ascending to heaven and everything, but that promo, man, that just always showed me right there how much, even though Undertaker, he, like, in the first couple of years, he didn't talk that much and everything, but just anytime he talked, and then that raspy Undertaker voice of his. It could have been when he first started, when I was a little kid watching Undertaker, and even now, up even till now, since Undertaker's retired, just his voice always is just like always captivated me as a fan and everything. Just watching Taker, and I've always wanted to listen to his, and it's so cool to have, like, when wrestlers give throwback to like the scary characters, but they have come from Undertaker. So that's why a big for me is, like, I'm not going to go off on a real more tangent, but just how kind of Bray Wyatt, rest in peace, my friend, that how he was kind of spooky, that you could tell he really watched you could tell that he watched those Undertaker tapes. But yeah, it's one of my favorite matches because I honestly forgot about that one being one of the first casket matches. So I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really good match personally for how hokey it was. Chris, what do you think?
Oh, okay, so for me, like, it's just some of the throwbacks, being that this is one of the first, casket matches, one of the first gimmick matches per se, of the whole genre of it all. But this match just kind of, at one point, seemed very congested, when they had everybody in the ring going up against, like, everybody against one man, it was just kind of like, Undertaker, of course, he fought as much as he could up against everybody, but it's just kind of cool to see some of those wrestlers like Bam Bam Bigelow or the Head Shrinkers being Fatu and Samu, Fatu being our beloved young Oda Rikishi. So it's kind of cool to see some of those guys younger, especially knowing the fact that even though Yokozuna was billed as a Japanese wrestler, he was actually Samoan and a part of the Anoa'i family. So seeing Samu and Fatu and Yokozuna in the ring right as they go to roll Undertaker into the casket match, they do all the cross, the Head Shrinkers and Yokozuna do the thing. So it's kind of cool to see the three members of the great Samoan family do that together. But I don't know. Like I said, it's just the video package is what really sold me for this match, because it was, the whole video package was, it was Undertaker building the casket, and then it was just the lead up to it, and then ultimately, of course, it ended with Undertaker being rolled by all the members of all the people that were either heels at the time, being Crush, or Tenryu and Kabuki, who were also managed by Mr. Fuji. So it was kind of cool to see all these people. And then Jim Cornette in his gloriness with his racket in hand, as the American correspondent to Yokozuna. Like, it was, like I said, it just, for what it was a great match. But to me, like I said, it was, you can say whatever you say, but to me, it was just very congested at one point. I was like, and then the point where Undertaker's just laying there, and then everybody's like just going in on him. Like, Jeff Jarrett did a diving, I guess, fist drop, and like Undertaker didn't move, and then Bam Bam Bigelow did a flying headbutt, and he didn't move at all. So it was kind of like he was just, it was at that point, it was like really, like, per se dead, So it was like he had died in the middle of the ring, per se. It was just kind of like, at that point, they were just adding insult to injury to me. So, but it is kind of cool to see, because this was one of the times where, in the beginning of Undertaker's thing, where you got to see him with the red hair and the red beard and the very heavy eye makeup. So it was to make him look more dead. But yeah, no, like I said, to me, it was a great match, but all in all, to me, it was very congested, especially after the point of where Crush came out and started attacking him, and I don't know. Like I said, you guys can say what you will about it, but like, to me, it was just very,
Yeah. Congested. I agree with you. I was just gonna. You just pointed on it. I just didn't real fast before we'll get to the next match for you, Jesse. I was just gonna say on there, just like, I completely forgot that, like you said, with his red hair, because like you always think of Undertaker as this guy with jet black hair, but then looking at him, you realized at the first top part of his career, he still had red hair. And then, like you said, Jesse, like, and he says in the promo that everybody has a little bit of Undertaker and lives in the soul of every man. And I have a red beard, so maybe that's my Undertaker showing.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, great points here. Moving on to the main event, the 30-man over the top battle royal. So some exciting stuff here. So the real quick though, the before the Royal Rumble match began, commentator Vince McMahon revealed that WWF President Jack Tunney at the time had shortened the intervals from the traditional 2 minutes to 90 seconds due to time constraints. Little bit of bad backstory here. Kamala was supposed to be in this match, but was replaced by Virgil. Ludwig Braga was supposed to, but had the ankle injury and was replaced by newcomer Quang, Savio Vega, for some of those out there. The 1-2-3 Kid was replaced by Thurman Sparky Plug, who's making his debut, Bob Holly. Bastion Booger was scheduled to be in this match, but for unknown reasons, Vince McMahon said for unknown reasons he wasn't in it. I tried to do a little bit of research, but I did. Vince does note on the commentary that he just didn't feel good, so I don't know what that meant. I tried to look it up, the backstory. So big question mark, I guess. But if you guys listening out there know, then please send us an IM or an email. So, we cut to a vignette before the for the guys involved in the Royal Rumble, or some of the guys rather, starting with Macho Man, the Jeff Jarrett, Tatanka, Diesel, Doink the Clown, Shawn Michaels, and then of course Lex Luthor. All talking about just different vignettes about the Rumble match, how they're going to win it, how they're going to do this and that, and So we start the match. Howard Finkel tells us, or Howard Fink rather, tells us that the wrestlers that drew 1 and 2 are about to come out. So I guess every wrestler had drew numbers 1 through 30, and the ones that got 1 and 2, and only wrestlers thrown over the top rope can be eliminated. So number 1 we got is Scott Steiner, a very long-haired Scott Steiner, way before the Big Papa Pump stuff. Number 2 is Head Shrinker Samu, being drugged to the ring by his hair by Alpha of the Wild Samoans. And of course they mix it up. I noticed that the countdown clock was sponsored by Casio, so that's pretty cool. I forgot that Casio watches were a big thing back then, or I guess they still are now, but yeah, so good on WWF for getting that Casio plug. Number 3 is, of course, Scott's brother, Rick Steiner, comes out to the ring, helps his brother Scott, rather, had a brain fart there, sorry. So I like when he came out to the ring, people start barking. Of course, Rick Steiner did dog-faced gremlin. So Samu tries to make a comeback, gets hung up in the ropes. I don't think that was like intentional. So they throw him over the ropes and he gets caught up in the middle and top rope. It looks like he kind of hangs himself there for a second, but I guess he is eliminated. Number 4, of course, is Quang, aka Salvio Vega, for some of those out there. Hits Rick in the face with the green mist. Cool spot there. Rick, of course, sells that. Number 5 is Owen Hart. Rick Steiner, of course, gets eliminated. Quang and Owen double team Scott. While that's going on, number 6 is Bart Gunn. He attacks Owen. Where we hear, of course, we hear something happen backstage, but it doesn't cut to anything backstage. We just kind of hear Vince McMahon noticed or had stated it. Number 7, of course, is Diesel. Bart Gunn is eliminated. Now Scott, now Owen, then Quang. So of course, as soon as Diesel hits the ring, he's just kind of eliminating everybody. We got Bob Backlund. He comes out hot against Diesel, but eventually Bob Backlund gets eliminated. Of course, Bob Backlund, former WWF heavyweight champion, a couple of years prior, but gets eliminated in this match pretty quick. Number 9 is Billy Gunn. And of course, Billy Gunn was in a tag team with Bart Gunn as the Smoking Guns at this time. Comes out though, gets thrown over, and then we kick it to the back where we see Tenru and Kubaki, Lex Luthor, that'd be cool, Lex Luger, rather, and then they're kind of beating him up, working on him. Some of the other more seasoned wrestlers come out, they kind of scare him off. I don't know if this was like intentional. This probably wasn't intentional, but I like that Tenru just kind of like casually walks off, like he's kind of unbothered by everything. So there at the end, that was kind of funny. But of course, kicks back to the Rumble. Number 10 is Virgil. Of course, it was supposed to be Kamala, not Kamala Harris, but Kamala the wrestler. So nice little shot at the VP there. And then, but we see Virgil get dumped. It's all in vain. Of course, Virgil had worked for $1 Million Man at this time. So, of course, $1 Million Man's kind of running him down on commentary. Number 11 is the Macho Man. But number 12, of course, is Jeff Jarrett. He attacks the Macho Man, really just making himself look strong against the Macho Man. Macho Man comes back, throws Double J over the top, goes after Diesel. Number 13 is Crush, who we had seen earlier. Macho Man stops him, really goes to town on him. Crush and Diesel double team on Macho. Number 14 is Doink the Clown. Doink, of course, this incarnation of Doink was played by Ray, not the Matt Bourne version. So different incarnations of Doink, Ray LaPallo, of course, being one of those. We see Macho thrown over top. Macho and Doink had, of course, a feud prior to this Royal Rumble match. But Macho gets thrown over. Doink enters, kind of laughs, while Diesel and Crush are fighting each other. Eventually, they team up on him. He squirts them in the face with water, and then kind of gets a cheap shot poke to the eyes. Number 15 is Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow comes out and beats up Doink, tosses Doink over the top. Of course, Doink and Bam Bam Bigelow had their own feud. So a lot going on here. Diesel, Crush, and Bam Bam just all fighting it out. Number 16 is Mabel, aka of course Mabel, also known as Viscera later on. I like how $1 Million Man has a line that there's like serious beef in the ring. I thought that was pretty funny. Diesel and Mabel go at it. Mabel really looking strong. Number 17 is newcomer Sparkplug, or Thurman Sparkplug, aka Bob Holly. And he's, of course, taking the place of the 1-2-3 Kid. Number 18 is Shawn Michaels. Everyone attacks Diesel, throws him over. 19 is Mo. Of course, Chris's good friend, Mo. He helps out Mabel. Shawn Michaels almost gets thrown over the top, but is able to pull himself back in. Number 20 is Greg the Hammer Valentine, rather. Want to put some respect on his name. Number 21, Tatanka. Number 22, Kabuki. Everyone teams up on Mabel, and he's out. Kind of sloppy there at the end, but how they threw him out. But nevertheless, he's out. Number 23 is Lex Luger, everyone's favorite. He goes after Kabuki for sabotaging him in the back. He's cleaning house, kicking everyone's butt. Kabuki is out. Number 24 is Tenru. He and Lex Luger go at it. One thing I'm going to note that is there Tenru in this match, just really laying him in, just thunderous chops from him. Number 25 was supposed to be Bret Hart. Doesn't come out yet. Vince McMahon and $1 Million Man talk about how much it would mean to Bret Hart to come out, but of course he doesn't. Number 26 is the model, Rick Martel. 27 is Bret Hart. Comes out after all, limping to the ring. 28 is Fatu. 29 is Marty Jannetty. Crush gets eliminated. Marty Jannetty attacks Shawn Michaels. Of course, they had their own beef. Number 30 is Adam Bomb. Sparkplug is eliminated. And then, of course, we hear that 25 was supposed to be back. I'll correct myself on the fact. The commentators did say 25 was going to be Bret Hart, but in reality, it was supposed to be Bastion Booger. So that's kind of where we see his absence there. It's really just a free-for-all. Eventually, the Hammer gets eliminated. Greg Valentine. Rick Martel is eliminated. Adam Bomb is eliminated. Mo's eliminated. Tonka's gone. Bam Bam Bigelow goes to splash Luger, but accidentally eliminates himself. Marty Jannetty's gone. And it's down to 5. So we really see some cool spots between Luger and Hart. And then they throw Fatu and Michaels into each other. Tenryu comes back, thunderous chops to Lex and Bret Hart, team up on Tenryu, and he's gone. Down to the final 4, we have Hart, Luger, Shawn Michaels, and Fatu. Shawn Michaels and Fatu team up on Lex Luger. Lex Luger fights back, comes in, clotheslines Fatu. Cool spot from Fatu because and of course Fatu played by Rikishi. Rikishi does this beautiful thing of when he gets clothesline, he has a way of just flipping his body, making it just really putting the other guy over, making him look strong. So we see that here. So really cool spot from Rikishi, aka Fatu. And then eventually we get Lex Luger, who has Fatu in the corner. Bret has Shawn Michaels in the opposite corner. They throw Shawn Michaels and Fatu at each other. Shawn Michaels leaps over Fatu, only to end up in the other corner, running at Lex Luger. Lex Luger dumps him over. Bret Hart dumps Fatu over. It's down to Bret and Lex Luger, and they start trading shots. Luger goes for press slam on Bret, tries to dump him over. Bret reverses it, and they both go over. So, and there's some questions on who eliminated who first. Referees talk it over. Fink announces it's Lex Luthor, but Earl Hebner tells Fink that it's actually Bret. So we got multiple referees, can't decide who wins. Billy the Little Man seems confused. The refs argue on who actually won. Feel that they both went over at the same time. So we get WWF President Jack Tunney. He comes out. We go to a replay, multiple replays here, seeing who actually won. And eventually Fink announces that it's both Bret and Lex. And the future is left open. So kind of ends things there. Bret Hart signs an autograph on his way out. So always the consummate professional. So, but before I kick it over to you guys, I want to go ahead and just add this little bit of tidbit here at the end. So this is the first and only Royal Rumble to have co-winners. A similar incident happened at the 2005 Royal Rumble when John Cena and Batista both eliminated each other at the same time. This would happen when John Cena goes to perform an FU Batista, but Batista countered. Batista then attempted a Batista bomb, which is just a power bomb, but was countered with a head scissors takedown from John Cena, and of course both sending him over the top rope. This of course wasn't planned. And then the referee from Raw and then referees from SmackDown both say that John Cena won, then Batista won. Eventually we get Vince McMahon, who was the WWE chairman at this time, comes down to the ring and legitimately blows out both of his quad muscles because his knees get caught in the apron. He announces to everyone, restart the match. We restart the match, and of course we get Batista, who eliminates John Cena by throwing him over the top. So we finally get a finish to that. But just kicking it back to this Royal Rumble 1994, regarding the title shot at WrestleMania 10, which was supposed to be given to the winner, it remained unsolved until the following weeks. Just a little bit of backstory. The reason for the double finish is that WWE or WWF at the time wasn't sold on who they wanted to elevate into the title picture, and they wanted more time to figure it out. Eventually, it was revealed that both Luger and Hart would receive shots at the WWF heavyweight champion, who was Yokozuna at the time at WrestleMania 12. Lex Luger was disqualified in his match against Yokozuna by guest referee Mr. Perfect. He becomes the first man to win the Royal Rumble, but not win their title match at WrestleMania. And later on in the night, we see Bret Hart beat Yokozuna for the scrap. He wins it all at WrestleMania 10. And of course, unfortunately, Lex Luger would not be featured in the main event in WWF and would leave for WCW in 1995. WWF at the time, or the year prior rather, really put a lot of money and a lot of work into Lex Luger, trying to make him the next Hulk Hogan. Wasn't really working out. They even scheduled something called the Lex Express, which was Lex Luger going town to town on a tour in a bus with his face on it, American flag, that whole work. Still didn't get him over, and so he would leave for WCW in 1995, and of course Bret Hart would leave later on in the 90s to WCW, himself. But so just kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts real quick, and then we'll get out of here for this week.
I guess I'll go ahead and go. Just watching. I always been loving to watch Royal Rumbles just to see who's all in it. Like, there's the people who who don't ever have a shot in the dark to win it, but it's just so cool to see people and then like being there and just like, it's funny because I'm watching these and I'm like, I don't remember that wrestler. I don't remember that. That's Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn had brown hair and a mustache one time. I completely forgot that, but I knew he was a part of the Smoking Guns. So that was kind of cool. But then, like I said, also remembering Mabel, and I'm just like, yeah, that's Viscera before he was Viscera, and just how he was pretty good in the match. I was pretty thoroughly impressed with that. But then, just Kevin Nash or Diesel just cleaning the house like nothing. It was just the Diesel and Kevin Nash we all knew he came to be. Just like, yeah, you could tell that. But just like I said, just seeing people who you didn't have a shot to be the WWF champion, but that's the best film at WrestleMania. That was cool. But like I said, it was funny because I remembered that Bob Holly was Thurman Sparky Plug, and it was just funny because I didn't realize that was his debut match. And so it's funny that we know that it was Lex and Bret co-winners, but 25 never came out, so why don't? And there's there's been some Rumbles that people didn't get to participate, so too bad that we couldn't be like, well, this are all the people who never got eliminated, so we should do another one, but that'd be probably too hard to do that. But I just think it's really cool just to go back and watch those Royal Rumbles, because like I said, that's Royal Rumbles is also because I watch a lot of wrestling with my kids, and my older two really like watching it with me, but my oldest one, he really likes watching Royal Rumble because we'll watch some old ones and like, hey, does he still wrestle? Is he retired or is he deceased? So just going back and watching, like I said, watching Royal Rumbles, and I'm just like, it's cool because now I can be like, all right, so I can remember this, and now I can with having this and everything, just watching again, and just like it was really neat to just go back and like the whole card was pretty good top to bottom. I'd rate it probably 7.5 out of 10. So I might get some more hate mail on that, but I think it overall was a good card and a good Royal Rumble and just setting it up. But yeah, to have co-winners, that kind of I thought it was interesting. I didn't know the whole backstory like you researched, Jesse, but just I guess that kind of, if you hear it sounded like there was a lot of boos and a lot of controversy about having co-winners. I think they probably could have figured out, but like I said, I didn't know the backstory about who they wanted to push or anything. But what if they really let Lex win, or they let Bret win instead of just having co-winners? But it's one of those things the world may never know. But I thought it was a pretty good Royal Rumble match for what it was, and that's what I think anyway. Chris?
Yeah, for me, this was probably one of my if I had to rate out of my favorite ones, this is most definitely top 3 because it had the most controversy, especially with the Royal Rumble match itself. But you had so many up and comers, in that match that would later on become legends like Rikishi, like Kevin Nash, like Bret Hart, Owen. You had so many people who nowadays are loved and revered for who they are, but you even have some at the time very unknowns like Sparky Plug, who would later become Hardcore Holly, or you had so many like people in that match that if you were like to look at him now, like Adam Bomb, what happened to him? Or Samu, like there's so many people that were in that match, that you would like be like, or just kind of wonder who or where they went, in the sense. But or I think a lot of them ended up becoming trainers. You had Mabel, who's at the time, wasn't he? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't he the King of the Ring at the time? Question.
I'm sorry,
But
I missed that. What was that?
Mabel, like at that time, wasn't he like King of the Ring? Like,
I believe so. Yeah, I think that was around that era where they were trying to. So it makes sense that they're trying to push him in this match, especially
yeah,
with
yeah,
him looking strong. Yeah, that was one of the. And I think around this time, that's when Mabel would have that feud with the Undertaker, and unfortunately broke his orbital bone.
yeah,
Yeah. So, one thing I didn't mention earlier about that casket match, though, the reason that they had everyone gang up on the Undertaker was trying to take some time that match, or after that match. So just wanted to get that in there. But yeah, you are correct. King of the Ring was around this era. I think it was the year before, year after. I cannot remember off the top of my head. But yeah, you are correct.
yeah. So you had big man Mabel, at the time being, or like I said, if I'm not mistaken, he would have been King of the Ring at the time. So it would have been like, for me, that's somebody I would have liked to have seen kind of gone over in this match, even though he might have not been the best candidate for it. But then you got to see later on in the match, you got to see his tag partner, or per se, Sir Mo. So it's kind of cool to see him, and then like um see him in there, and then like knowing the fact of uh knowing him now, it's kind of cool just not like going back and seeing them in the prime of their wrestling career, when they maybe first started out or was making a name for themselves. So like I said, in this match, like for me, like the main factors were Big Daddy Diesel dominating and eliminating what, 8 people. So it's like he was like, for me, I was like, he was another one that I was kind of hoping would end up winning this match, but maybe at the time it wasn't the right time for him. So it was just kind of cool just to go back and see some of those old, some of the wrestlers younger, seeing what they were at the time, and then seeing what they ended up becoming. So like, and then of course, one thing I wanted to point out, which seemed kind of like a little inconsistency, was how when Brett finally did come out, he came out very favoring the knee, but when he was actually hitting someone, he didn't really seem to uh favor that knee so much. And he was actually like wrestling as if it wasn't hurting, like especially when him and Shawn Michaels were kind of hitting it off, kind of, in that sense. So, and then later, like of course, when the whole controversy happened where the both of them go over, like to me, looking at it, the many times they showed those playbacks, you can definitely tell that uh Lex Luger hit the ground first. But, because Lex Luger hit, then Bret fell shortly right after. So for me, that match was won by Bret Hart. But, of course, it's a whole big controversy because they ended up having the thing later. But something that I would have liked to have seen was, instead of a match separately, maybe have a match of them together, like a legit match of them together where they face off against each other, maybe in a best 2 out of 3 or something like that,
That's
where
good.
to find out who legit actually deserves that win. But it ended up being where Bret Hart ended up actually getting the shot because Lex Luger was in that disqualified via Mr. Perfect, or Kurt Hennig, rest in peace. But it was just kind of cool for me to see, like I said, just to reminisce and go back and see all that. But it's kind of what I thought about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like kind of what you guys had both said is just seeing different wrestlers saying like, oh, Bob Holly whenever he first started, or even Savio Vega as Quang, or and seeing guys like Lex Luger, in this match, or Diesel, or like Chris had mentioned, favoring the knee, and it's kind of like, because when he was in this match, he was still selling that he was hurt, and I think that it makes it even more special that he was able to pull this off. So yeah, for sure. I mean, no further comments here, but yeah. So but just kind of wrapping everything up, thanks everyone for listening who still stuck around. Apologize if it's a little bit lengthy as we kind of, move forward. We're going to work our system out and try to, condense these where it's not as long. But if you like the long content, please, let us know. But yeah, so just kind of trying to make it easier for you listeners out there. But yeah, so you guys got any final thoughts before we get out of here? I know you both had said, I know Ian had said, he kind of gave this a 7 out of 10, and Chris, I know you enjoyed moments from this, but got any other tidbits before we get out of here for the week?
I just think it's cool to go back and watch, like we've always said that from the get-go, is that we're going to find some gems or undiscovered stuff. And like I said, that's the cool thing. I guess my gem that I found this time is just going back and watching some of these matches that I haven't watched in a very, very long time. And it's kind of cool to see like people in their prime, like we said, because I just recently, back a couple months ago, took my kids to the Oklahoma Pop Convention, Oklahoma Pop, and they had a lot of celebrities, and Luger was there, and I actually had a chance. I didn't get any autographs from him because I didn't bring a lot of money with me, which is neither here or there, but I got a chance to talk to Luger and took a picture with, I didn't take a picture, I took a picture of him, not with me and him, but I said, thank you for making my childhood great. And he just was genuinely sincere. And I said, I always thought that you were one of the best people in my childhood. So thank you for what you all did for my childhood. He goes, I hear that all the time from fans, but I can't tell you. I think it was you fans that made me. So it was really cool to watch Luger in his prime, because I just met him, like me personally, just a couple months ago, and seeing how he is now. But he looks in good spirits, and it was just cool to see him back in his prime.
Exactly. Like it is very cool to be able to, like, especially since starting this podcast, it's being able to go back and rediscover kind of the things that you may have not remembered, because like at the time, that was 94, and depending on the time, I was either 3 years old or 4 years old. But I remember watching this at the time, because I was literally like I said, I was a very young kid, and I was very much introduced to wrestling at a very young age because of my nana. But like, it was just kind of cool to go back and because when you're a baby or a toddler, you're not really paying attention to stuff. You see movement on the screen, you're like, oh, that's cool, I really like that, cool. But like going back as an adult and watching the stuff that you maybe didn't pay that quite attention to, or remember slightly, but like now you get to actually like dive into it and be able to take it all in, for what it is as a whole, and find that revitalize that love that you had for wrestlers that you had back in the day. Like for me, it was Razor Ramon and Bret Hart and stuff like that. So it was kind of, like I said, again, it's just kind of cool to go back and do what we're doing, doing these deep dives, finding the like you said, Ian, the hidden gems from back.
For sure. Oh yeah, didn't mean to cut you off there at the end, but
yeah,
no, I mean, for sure, so we're all about. But yeah, so I believe that on the next week's episode, we will try to do WrestleMania 10 and see that WrestleMania 10 of 1994 and try to see the match. Sorry, let me start that again. 1, 2, 3. So I think the next episode we're gonna do is WrestleMania 10, and see those title matches with Yokozuna, Lex Luger, and then Yokozuna and Bret Hart, and kind of see the wrap up on that feud and where that ended. But yeah, so that will be next week's episode, WrestleMania 10. Of course, if you're listening to this episode, thank you so much for sticking around this far. And if you have any questions or concerns about that pay-per-view or just in general, please send us an instant message on either our Facebook or Instagram page, or email us at that's3ref@gmail.com. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for sticking around, everybody. And the neighborhood friendly goof, Jesse White Deer. They have been your favorite Oklahoma, Ian Cooper, and he has been the immortal fragmented luchador, Chris Lawson. Of course, you can find both of those guys on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram, and you can listen on YouTube and Spotify. And please, if you like the stuff that we're doing, let a friend know. Let your family member know. Let everyone know.
A stranger.
Yeah, let a stranger know. Who knows? It could be a good icebreaker. You're at the bar, you see a member, someone that you're attracted to. You go up to them, you say, "Hey, I'm listening to this new podcast you should listen to. Also, here's my number, or here's my Instagram account." So yeah, good icebreaker.
Good icebreaker. Totally great.
Yeah. And if that line ends up getting you married, and you end up, getting married, please let us know. Invite us to the wedding. But until then, we will see you guys next time. So thanks so much. Goodbye.